I often hear from people that if I give my horse a choice, they're always going to say no, and I can't let them say no.
It's just so ludicrous, right? What relationship do you want to be in where you are never allowed to say no? Good God,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
they are sentient beings. Come on, we know they're intelligent. We know they have feelings. Like we don't want to be in that relationship and they don't want to either.
It's such a hard psychological thing for people to come out of. Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. I'm Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened, and this is the Thinking Horse and Rider, the podcast dedicated to training you to become the best possible partner for your horse. Here, we explore the science and soul of horsemanship. We dive into equine behavior, the psychology of partnership, and compassionate training methods that help you become a thinking rider who creates a thinking horse. Because when you understand how your horse's mind works and show up with empathy and presence, everything gets easier and a whole lot more fun. My goal is to keep riding easy and fun for everyone while helping you deepen your connection, find more flow, and maybe even create your own unicorn along the way. Whether you're working on dressage movements or just trying to understand why your horse did that thing they did, we'll explore the research, the real talk, and the small shifts that make a big difference in and out of the saddle. So grab your boots, take a deep breath. What are you waiting for? Come ride with me. There were so many moments in this conversation that I loved, and I hope you will too. Kim Hallin is such a wealth of information, not just on horses, but on how we as humans relate to them. As I continue exploring the foundations behind Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart with colleagues and friends across the horse world, I keep hearing the same themes, sometimes from completely different perspectives. Today's episode continues with the exploration of Seed 3, Relational Consistency. When we think about our relationships with our horses, most riders immediately think about the training relationship, the riding, the cues, the work. But horses didn't evolve in training programs. They evolved in relationships. They are social animals whose sense of safety, cooperation, and emotional regulation is deeply influenced by the stability of their social world, their herd, their humans, and the predictability of the environment around them. Seed 3 explores the idea that partnership isn't just built through better techniques, it grows out of a consistent relational environment where the horse experiences emotional stability, social connection, and a human who is present and available in the relationship. And that doesn't mean you have to be with your horse all day, every day, but it does mean recognizing that whether we realize it or not, we are part of our horse's relational world. And I thought, who better to talk about this with than Kim Hallin, author of the book Horse Wisdom: Life Lessons for Humanity, and founder of Unbridled LLC. Kim is a writer, horsewoman, and advocate for a more thoughtful and compassionate approach to horses that recognizes them as intelligent social beings. Through her work with Unbridled, she explores the emotional lives of horses, the role of autonomy and choice, and how understanding herd relationships can completely change how we think about training. Kim's perspective invites us to zoom out from techniques and really look at the relational environment our horses live in every day. So buckle up. This might be a bit of a bumpy ride as we debunk some long-held myths about horse culture. Welcome, Kim. Can you tell listeners a little bit about your work at Unbridled and how you came to focus on the relational world of horses?
Sure, absolutely. So at Unbridled, I work with people and my herd of horses to explore what we can learn from the amazing intelligence and emotional depth of horses. And living with my own herd on my farm has given me, and anyone, I guess, who lives on their own farm, but for me, it really gave me the rare opportunity to just watch horses be horses, which was something that I really couldn't do when I was boarding my horse or just showing up at the barn for lessons. So I couldn't really spend a lot of time observing their interactions and their bonds, their social intelligence. And that really became my obsession, honestly, once the horses were home with me. And eventually that sparked my curiosity about what parts of their behavior that I was seeing was innate and what was maybe learned or conditioned. And so that got me diving into equine ethology. And it didn't take long to look into that before I realized that relationships are everything to horses in the wild. In it is still in the domestic world, but we kind of mask over that, or we don't really learn so much about that. But in the wild, it's really everything that their whole structure and way of living is wrapped around. So I guess my work grew from that core fascination, and today I focus on helping people see, understand, and learn from the subtle ways that horses communicate and connect with each other and with us.
So cool because I don't think, like you said, that we're taught anything about that. When I learned to ride, it was, oh, horses don't care about that, or they don't worry about that, or they don't feel that. That is not true.
Well, I remember the only thing I was really taught in terms of relationships was if the one was buddy sour or barn sour, get them to get over it.
I remember this is one of the things that used to always get me. I had a great coach. He said to me, the horses are individuals, and you always have to ride the horse that you have. And that was great, but then at the same time, you're getting sort of conflicting information, but they're all like this or they're all like that. And so I think to me, I was always looking for some contradiction here that nobody ever taught me. I don't understand. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because we used horses for work, for jobs first.
Right.
And so we needed them to perform functions. And we just said, well, I don't have time for that today. You have to do what I need you to do.
Yeah, they were for utility and extraction pretty much. And I think people who owned horses valued them and cared about them because they were their livelihood.
Sure. And I think just like today, some people more than others. Some people probably really had good relationships with their horse, even though they use them for work, and some people didn't.
Yeah, we have to assume that's not unique to today.
Exactly. And I also liked what you said about their wisdom because I just recently saw something on social media about how they are so much older than we are in the universe. We are
Million years,
babies. We
right?
are like the newborns, and they're my 100-year-old grandma. So,
Yeah, they've been succeeding on this planet and thriving on this planet for so long. They have so
right.
much they can teach us.
Right. And we're always trying to teach them something. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you
Exactly.
often talk about horses as deeply communal and cooperative animals. What does that look like in a herd setting for my people who just board their horses or go to lesson barns and don't get to see their horses at home in a herd?
Yeah. I think the thing that comes to mind for me first is that it looks like shared leadership, which was really surprising for me, right? Because I'd always learned about the herd hierarchy and competition and dominance and submission, which I've since learned is really not what we were taught that it is.
Hmm.
Not that there isn't any herd hierarchy, but we can talk about that later if you want. But it's not necessarily leadership in the way that I was taught that it was. So anyway, so
Right.
shared leadership, which often means that just whichever horse in the herd is equipped to step forward with whatever is happening or to step back. Part of their wisdom is they know when to step back and let somebody else step forward.
Hmm.
Whichever horse has the strongest intention to do something, as long as there's not a compelling reason not to, the others will typically follow. Not even just like it's the lead mare, which also we hear about, right?
Yeah.
It's much more to the story than
Yes.
that. So yeah, that comes to mind first. And another thing that still strikes me when I do with the EAL work that I do, equine assisted learning work, is that there is not one thing that those horses do that is not intentional. They really, and I think it comes back to horses actually being masters of efficiency and energy conservation, that they only do something, any move has a purpose. And it's not just that they're aware of what they want, they are very conscious of how everything they do affects the rest of the herd. That continues to blow my mind when I see new layers of that, which definitely was never taught about.
Because we were taught that horses are flighty and they just do rando stuff
Right.
and
Unpredictable.
they're unpredictable. And I really knew that was not the case before I had children. But I can tell you, once you've had kids out with horses just roaming in their herd, and not once did a horse accidentally knock them over, or nothing like that when they were small. So it's just amazing to me how they know.
Yeah. I've watched videos of in the wild herd of horses with a baby on the ground. They are all stepping all around it, even a mother defending her baby, and they
Hmm.
never step on the baby. And I know that
Right.
there are blind spots underneath. The sense of where their feet are and what they are doing is
Yes.
remarkable.
And I have seen plenty of videos of people having falls when they're riding, and you can see horses
Trying not to.
intentionally avoiding, yes, or to the best of their ability.
I
I
would say
think
the
that's
exception to that is I have seen, even in my own herd, I had one horse who, for whatever reason, what it was before I got her, but fireworks would put her in a blind panic.
mm,
She would run you over, she would run. There is a blind panic type of situation where they
sure,
don't seem to know what they're running over. But
right.
most
And I have seen horses in the wild with all kinds of craziness going on around them, and they're not in a blind panic. So I think sometimes those things are created by humans.
I do too.
The
My
horses,
my
they,
feral horse is actually the safest horse to be around.
right? Isn't that so funny? Yeah.
Takes care of himself and gives clearance. And
Mhm.
I have never been
Right.
worried about non-horse people, children, anything going into the pasture with him.
So many riders think about their relationship with their horses as the training relationship, or my least favorite term ever, my horse needs a job, has a job, anything like that. So, how do you see that differently? And what do you think the horse and rider miss out on in this type of relationship?
In the type of relationship where they think of it as the training relationship.
Yes, as the training, or this is my horse's job.
Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah. So I've come in my own belief system at this point to have a very clear distinction between a training relationship and what I call just an organic relationship. To me, a training relationship, and also it would be if they have a job, is always going to be human centered just by its nature, because it's the human who's facilitating and deciding on whether we're going to do training, what kind of training we're doing, the method, is it whatever kind of method it is, right?
mhm.
And goals, the approach, the outcomes. So to me, it's always going to be human focused, and an organic relationship equals the playing field. There's if you're taking out the training and the work part, then there's no agenda other than just to be in relationship with another being and to explore who are you as an individual, who am I as an individual, who are we together, and how does it feel to share space and time and energy and to try to communicate. So what does someone miss? I guess if we only ever engage in the training relationship or the work kind of thing, I think we miss out entirely almost on ever really knowing who our horse actually is outside of those
Yes.
things, outside of that dynamic. And I think we also miss out on discovering who we can be without the pressures of all of that. So
Mm,
I don't think you have to pick one or the other, but I think if you only do one,
yeah.
only do the other, you're missing out on some pieces. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I totally agree. I think you can do both. I think if
Yeah.
you want to ride your horse and you want to have goals, then you kind of have to do, well, I think you have to do both. Um,
Yeah, if you're going to have those kind of goals, I think you do have to have a training relationship.
but I think you should also have the organic relationship because
Yes.
to me, like we've talked about, they have so much wisdom. You can learn so much. And when you take out the always feeling like you are the one who needs to teach something, you're going to learn way more than. you're trying to teach your horse. They already know, and especially I tell people this, especially my dressage people, the things you're asking them to do are not things that they don't know how to do. You're just asking them to do them when you want them to,
Correct. Yeah, you're
right?
not,
They can pee off passage, they can make a canter pirouette on their own or a flying lead change. They don't
right.
need your help.
We're not turning
They're
them into something that they're
right.
not, or they have no.
They're perfectly capable, most of them, to do all of those things. And if the mood strikes them in the field, they will. You just want them to do them when you want them to do. So
Right.
maybe sometimes you let them show you, "Well, this is when I feel like I can do this. This is when I feel like my body is ready to do this."
And if you think about, you and I are friends. Let's say we lived in the same town. If we always do what I want to do, each time we get together, oh, here's Kim. We're going to do what Kim wants to do. After a while, you're going to be like, oh, okay. If I want to be friends with someone, I want to find out what are your interests? How do you like to spend your day? And yeah, I may not always agree with it, but if I like being with you because I like you, I might do that thing. So even
Yeah.
hanging out with my horse while they graze, that's what they want to do. It's
Hmm.
any relationship, it's got to be both ways in an
Yes.
organic relationship.
So my dad actually told me that he had heard this same analogy by some other male trainer at a clinic, but they use this, and I thought this was great because it's so identifiable for women. If you dated a guy and they showed up all the time and were like, get in my car, we're gonna go to the gym, and then we're gonna come home and I'm gonna just send you back into your house all sweaty and gross and say, I'll be here tomorrow to pick you up and go to the gym again. You
What is
would
it?
not want to do that. And then he added a little bit about going to the mounting block and getting on them. Right? Because if you put that sort of little sexual innuendo in there, women are like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Uh,
no,
no, I wouldn't want that. And basically, getting on top of your horse is invasive.
very invasive.
I mean, I'm sorry to say, it is.
It is.
And yeah, so I just thought that was a great comparison for
It is.
people. And it's a little shocking and a little hard to hear, but
Well,
you
I
need
think
to hear
sometimes
it.
we have to hear something that sort of just shocks us out of our whatever we've learned to accept as normal without thinking about it. We
Right.
have to go, holy crap. Well, I never really
Yes.
thought about it like that.
I think they are allowing us to ride them. I don't think that they're asking us to.
I don't think there's
Totally different.
probably ever been a wild horse that just said, I think I'd like that human to get on my back. I doubt it's
I have this black stallion sort of dream that that might be true,
we
Kim,
all
but
do.
I don't
We
know
all
that it is.
do. Yeah, I have yet to see an example of it, but
Right. Me either.
it's
So,
our idea. That riding is our idea. It's just,
yes, exactly. So speaking of, from an ethology perspective, what are the most important social needs horses have that people often overlook?
mm, I think for sure, long-term family or friend bonds. In the wild, their relationships are lifelong. Even if band formations change or whatever, friendships continue. And a herd might be hundreds of horses, and there's different family bands and bachelor
Hmm.
bands within that. It's like a neighborhood, though. They continue to see the same horses for life. And the
Yeah.
other would be the freedom to choose who you want to live and be friends with.
Hmm.
Like right now, I have three horses, and you can choose a little, but
Right.
in the wild, you have hundreds of horses to,
Right.
thousands maybe to
Right.
choose from. Of like, so
Right.
just that, yeah, that diversity of relationships.
Yeah, so that brings up an interesting point because this is part of one of the things I talk about in the first module of my course is that you're aware of that your horses only have a limited choice. I'm aware of that. But how do we not feel guilty about that? How do we just say, I'm doing the best I can with what I have, And
I think it's just that. I don't
yeah,
know. And I'm honestly not sure that it's wrong for us to feel a little guilty about that. I mean, I think it is important that we acknowledge that we have created a
hmm,
world and no fault of ours. I only have 3 acres. I only have a certain amount of money. Like it, I know
right.
I cannot create a natural type environment for my horses. So since I can't do lots of horses, I do have a goal of keeping their relationships stable once they show me that they're okay together. We're all dealing with imperfect situations. I think horse owners actually have a very challenging situation because the way that horses really want to thrive or thrive is not accessible for most of us. And
Right.
those of us who have done the time to kind of learn more about it know that, and that makes us sad, but we do the best we can. So I think
Right.
just being aware and trying your best. And I mean, sometimes I apologize to my horses. I just say,
Yeah, I do.
sorry.
Same thing.
I
Right.
would love for you to
But
have 50 horses to play with.
they're so forgiving. In my episode with the animal communicator, she talked about that. I think that's so important for people to know because when I start, a lot of my people are kind of coming from the competition world or the boarding barn world, the training barn world. And then they start to learn all of these things that they were never taught. And then all of a sudden they get this guilt and they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough. No,
It doesn't help. It's
acknowledge.
not helpful when we spiral like that.
Exactly. That is not helping either because now you're putting another burden on your horse because they're feeling you're spiraling. So just acknowledge it. You can apologize and say, hey, I'm sorry. You only have your buddy here to deal with. We're doing the best we can. And they're so phenomenal with being okay and accepting us for who we are.
Yes. And
And
they
so we should do the same.
humans and horses both are two of the most adaptable species on the planet. I mean, the reason horses are where they are is because they're incredibly adaptable. The only reason they live with us and do these things and live so differently than they do in the wild is they have an incredible ability to adapt. Now, there are price tags on that sometimes. Just like us, we can adapt, but sometimes those things do cause long-term stress or whatever. We have to remember that they are incredibly adaptable and they will work to find peace in their situation to the extent that they can. And we usually can find a way to help them be able to reach that place. Even if we can't do perfection, they will do their part to meet us where we can meet them most of the
Right.
time. Yeah.
I agree. So, what do you think? We talked about this a little, but what role do friendships, alliances, and hierarchy, I'll say hierarchy with air quotes, play in herd stability?
Yeah. So let me talk about the hierarchy first, because everybody always asks about that. What I learned from studying ethology, which is the study of horses in their natural environment, is that the purpose of the hierarchy is it is a survival strategy. It is a coping strategy that isn't needed that often in the wild. Say the horses needed to run through a gap in the canyon that's only one horse wide, but there's 10 horses. If they are being chased by a predator, they don't need to run up on that thing and go, oh my God, who's going first? They've got to know coming up on that what the hierarchy is and who's going first, second, third, all the way down, first, number 1 to number 10. They got to know. No, no thought. They all just align in it so they can get through that. And the same with any kind of limited resource that even horses in a herd that are familiar with each other, some are fine drinking next to each other or eating next to each other, and some got to have a little more space. They're just like us. I don't really want you all up in my business, my personal
Mhm.
space. So if there's a small drinking hole, not all of them can be there together and be comfortable with each other. So they're gonna figure it out based on the hierarchy, who gets to drink first, and right. So it's more of a if there are limited high value resources or there's a safety situation and we need to organize we know how to organize. What happens in the domesticated world is a lot of times there's, one hay pile or, one water trough or even access to friends. Because if I only have three horses, I only have one best friend. Instead of in the wild, I might have three best friends. And if you're hanging out with them right now, I'll go over here and hang out with them. But if I don't have anyone
Right.
else to hang out with, you're now a really limited resource to me. So I'm going to be protective of that. So it plays out in the domestic setting in a lot of ways that I don't think occur in the wild, which makes it look like there's dominance and submission, and that's not really what it is. And but so tell me your question again. I got a little off.
That- that-
I know
I'm
I
really glad that you went through all of that because what that is something that is just most people do not understand. So you basically answered that. The question was, what role do friendships, alliances, and hierarchy play in herd stability? And so basically just to keep the herd stable. And when they are using it in the wild, they are, it's more based on a limited resource or a safety situation, whereas in the domestic setting, there's a lot of limited resources
lot.
and
Yeah,
sometimes a lot of perceived safety situations for
right.
horses, right? Because they don't have the freedom to move that they would
Right.
have in the wild. So, yeah, I think that, so that, all of that being said, what is one thing that horses do in herds that humans tend to misunderstand from your experience?
So two things come to my mind that are kind of silly, and I'm just thinking about when I have people come here and observe the horses, and the first thing that people are really surprised about is that they graze for 18 hours a day.
Hmm.
They commonly think, oh, the horses are going to run around. My horses run around maybe twice a week for 10 minutes, and that's it.
Right.
They really are energy
Hmm.
conservers,
Hmm.
which I think is important to note too, because when we do give them a job and we do work them a lot, there's this whole thing about, oh, they travel 30 miles a day. In the wild, most of that is grazing. It is not that they're running around all this time. Most of that mileage is done very slowly with their heads down. That
Right.
takes the stress off their backs. So we do have to understand it's not a mystery why horses' bodies break down. Is we are asking a lot more than what they do in the wild. So that's one for sure. And then the other is actually play. I so often, especially with geldings or stallions, people will confuse play with actual fighting or
Hmm. Hmm.
dominance. And like, horseplay can look pretty animated and pretty intense sometimes, not realizing, being able to understand what's play and what is actual fighting or disagreement, or they're going to hurt each other.
Yes, I have a horse that was gelded um, when he was 4. He's very vocal, and people would always be, "Oh my God, he's no, he's just a loudmouth. There's no bite there." I mean, I think in the 26 years that I've had him, I think I saw him purposely kick a horse twice. And he does a whole lot of other things. He's a very smart leader when he wants to be.
I hate
But funny when you were talking about going through a whole, I used to trail ride him with my friend and her mom, and they had these two big stout mares, and he's kind of always very cautious. He's very smart, and he's always looking at things, but he loves to be out just walking. So we would go on these walks, and he would be out front. He was going, but every time we'd get to a gap or something that he wasn't sure of, he would always be the one to go in the back.
it.
And we always laughed. He is like, if it doesn't eat one of the fat girls, I'm okay.
Right. Right.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a chivalrous thing and he's like, ladies first. I don't know, you know, but
But there was some reason. He had a reason. Like to
but
him,
he had a reason. He was one of these horses that he would walk faster and with more exuberance going away from the barn. It's like, what am I going to see? And then as you came back to the barn, he also would kind of go, oh God, here we go.
Oh, that's a fun one.
So it was really interesting to have him being, I'm ready. And then he would be like, oh, but we need to cross this little creek or we need to do whatever. And he would back off and let them go first. I don't know why, but it was really interesting. And I think when we can allow our horses to do things like that, you learn so much, even if you don't know why. Oh, that's an interesting.
And it's important to him, right?
Yeah, it's
There,
important to him for whatever reason. I could have been like, hey, no, I need you to go first, but
right.
I didn't. So it's kind of silly. And I find there's a lot of times that people have these ideas in their heads that they need to make their horse do something. And then
Right.
why?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they don't really know.
That is something I wish I had known much earlier, that if
Hmm.
something seems really important to your horse, get curious about what that is because they're trying to
Yes.
tell you something. And
Right.
now I think about when I used to go with friends on these trail rides and stuff. Here we are arriving with horses who hardly know each other or don't know each other. We decide what order we want to walk on the trail and because of who we want to be next to or whatever.
Hmm.
Like these horses are probably going, "Oh my God, we haven't figured out what is our hierarchy? I don't even know these horses. What if something happens? What are we going to do?" And
Hmm.
we're trying to control them, and they're probably like, "These humans do not understand. We have a process."
It's very interesting to me because I'm not a big fox hunter, but I have a friend that is very big into it. She will tell you this horse goes here in in the pack, or this horse is a lead horse, or this horse goes in the back. It seems to me the times that I've been out and done it, the horses figure it out quick. I want to be here, and if you let them just be where they want to be.
You do much better.
But if you're trying to say, well, no, I need you to be in the front or I need you to be in the back, it's like, I don't know what to do.
Because and for them, they're not really understanding that the goal of this is fox hunting. They're here
Right.
social experience with these other horses and people, and they
Right.
want to figure out where do I feel. I mean, the other horses are giving them signals. They're talking to each other.
Right. Right.
We're not understanding all we know maybe the alphabet of horse, right? And they're speaking
Right.
fluent language. Yeah, and then we're
Right.
trying to tell them to be somewhere that doesn't make sense given all the information they have.
Yeah, exactly. And so that brings me kind of to my next point too, is with people who have horses that are in boarding situations or places where they're not getting all of their social and emotional needs met by other horses.
Right.
I I tell them you may have to fill in these gaps. You may have to be a buddy to your horse in a sense. You don't need to spend all day out in the pasture. I understand that most of us can't do that. We need to go to work. But you may need to take the extra time to connect with your horse in that way rather than show up, pull them out of the stall or out of their paddock, tack them up, and go for a ride. That may not be what your horse is ready for when they have been wondering all day long or stressing all day long about something they can't control because they will stress over things they can't control. That's why they get these stereotypical behaviors that we don't like.
Right. Their nervous system is paying the price.
And so I have a really hard time explaining that to people without them thinking that I'm saying, well, you need to go sit with your horse all day long and entertain them.
I think it just comes down to horses are highly emotionally intelligent and social beings. Relationships is their thing, and they're constantly doing that work. Now, a horse is sitting in a stall all day. Maybe he has a little bit of interaction with the one horse next to them or not, but they're really not getting that relational connection. And no, horses aren't going to think we're another horse. We can't substitute for that. But they form relationships with all kinds of different species. My Mustang, one of his favorite things is this dog that I dog sit sometimes.
Hmm.
First time that dog came, he was like, "This is my best bud." I was like,
That's so
"What?
funny.
What is going on here?" He was just like, "This dog and I are," but and
Right.
my horses have relationships with my pig, and they're not together all the time. But it still is very satisfying, and it meets them and it calms their nervous system. So yeah, I think we have every ability to be that for our horse, and it can be while we're doing grooming. It's just being, we're not going to come in and just do this training or job. Let's connect. How are you?
Right.
How are you feeling? You know,
Yeah, because I think a lot of people have the idea that the consistency
mm,
in their relationship with their horse means the work that they're doing, the
right.
training relationship. But what do you think it means to horses? What does a consistent relationship mean to a horse?
I think that means that you show up as is you
And
and
be interested in them as them.
as them. And I think showing up in alignment, like, because some people think it means, oh, I need to show up happy for my horse every time, or always be
Right.
centered, or always whatever. I don't think that's the case because I think horses see right through that. I
I
think it
agree.
actually makes them a little anxious if our outside behavior doesn't match our inside. Someone
Hmm.
who's afraid, acting brave, that incongruency. So I think it's just
Yeah.
showing up honestly and being present and just being, hey, I had a rough day. How are you today? I talk to my horses. I mean,
Right. But isn't it interesting that for those of us who started riding as kids or at a younger age, you did that as a kid. I think I've always done it just because I did it as a kid. You would tell them all kinds of things and you would be your honest self. And even with my kids, they totally know if the kid has an intention to do something. For instance, one of mine today, he had it in his mind he was going to go give them a cookie. My horse was like, "Your intention is to feed me, and I'm here for that all day, every day." So he's like, "Yes, sir." But the other one was like, "Why? I feel your intention, but I'm gonna go the long way around and side eye you until I can figure out what it
I'm used
is."
to the boys just being the boys. And this is
Right.
like, wait, what's going on here?
I think that's so funny because had they, for instance, just run by him or been being themselves, he wouldn't have even
At it,
probably given it a second thought. But the fact that he went out there with the intention of interacting with him, even though it was to give him something to eat, the horse was like, well,
my Mustang is the same way. Mm, nice. Holding
right.
out that treat. I see you holding it, but you came onto the fence just way too much intention.
I think it's so interesting because it's two different horses in with a person with the same intention,
Mm.
and they had two totally different reactions to it. So also, your horses are individuals, and
Yes.
you
And
we need to be interested in what that individual
is experiencing.
yes is experiencing.
But
Perfect.
again, back to any relationship we want to be in. Just because I want to be friends with someone doesn't necessarily mean they're feeling that vibe, or
Yes.
that maybe I need to moderate my energy for that person
Hmm.
to feel comfortable with me. So you're right. We should show up as us, but we also need to pay attention to how is us, of course, we feeling about us, and can we work together?
Yeah, and for me, who I work with a lot of horses, and I have worked with a lot of horses, I can figure out pretty quickly how I need to be. Some horses, they love it when you're super exuberant and you're kind of extroverted, which is not my natural self at
Right.
all. That's harder for me, but I know when they're feeding off of that. And there's horses that if you act like that, they'd leave you in a heartbeat. They'd be through the barn roof. So we do have to be true to ourselves, but also, yes, read the room, I guess.
Yeah.
Not be just, I'm going to be myself regardless of you. I'm going to be respectful to you, just like I would another human. Because do you think horses can form meaningful bonds with humans, similar
Oh,
to their horse herd bonds?
Yes, I think they can be equally as meaningful. And again, I don't think that they think we're horses, but absolutely they can form incredibly meaningful bonds with people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And do you think that horses relate to humans differently depending on whether they feel a sense of safety and predictability in their overall nervous system? If you have a horse that is, think about sales barn, horse coming, going, other horses coming and going. I don't know what tomorrow might bring or the next hour might bring. People always say, well, horses, they live in the moment. To me, if they have that sort of predictability of at least these things remain constant, and my relationships with people and other animals remain constant as much as they can, then you have less of the angst that you often see in these more busy environments.
Yeah. And I think it's just, it's a lot. Their nervous systems work basically the same as ours do. If we're in environments that are changing all the time and our trusted friends or people we know are leaving, it's an unpredictable environment. And I'm sure there's some people who thrive in that more than others. People vary a lot of consistency, and some people like a little more diversity. But that I think secure attachment is,
Hmm.
regardless of which of those personalities you are, we have to have secure attachment in our life or our nervous system is not happy.
So, what signs tell you that a horse is trusting a relationship with another human or another horse, another animal, a pig, dog, whatever?
Well, certainly relaxation would be a sign. Nervous system relaxation, I guess I should say, because it can be sometimes active. It doesn't just mean I'm just relaxed, but their
Right.
demeanor and their nervous system is relaxed. Curiosity. I don't think that if horses are not feeling trusted and trusting and safe, they're not very curious.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Yeah.
And again, different horses have different curiosity levels, but horses generally are fairly curious. Um, Proximity. So if horse is not, if they're not forced, a horse is not going to choose to be close to someone or something or another horse even that they're not feeling safe and trusting with. They're just not. They're not going to get that close. So proximity doesn't, you don't necessarily have to have proximity for the relationship to be trusting, but if you have proximity, I think you can feel, and they're not like being aggressive to each other. Um, and just general calm engagement would be some of the things I think I would look for. Yeah.
Yeah, so that brings me to another question. What about these horses that and people where, because I think it goes both ways, where the horses are sometimes so close to their humans, and it's not because they're comfortable with their human, but they're not comfortable with the outside, anything else that's happening in the environment. And so they're sort of like a space invader. And then the human, a lot of times, I don't know why, but we were taught, well, if I keep them close to me, I have more control.
Mm.
So now we have two sort of nervous systems that are kind of, but they're right next to each other. People will say, well, he's getting close to me because he's afraid of that or he's worried about that. How do you think people can realize when the horse is maybe nervously close as opposed to relaxed and close?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to learning how to read the nervous system, the signs that the nervous system is in parasympathetic more than sympathetic. I have a gelding who will come up and he's very mouthy when he's feeling a little bit anxious inside,
Hmm.
just a little anxious. His mouthiness is
Hmm.
a tell. If he can come and stand next to me quietly, I know he's actually feeling really safe and regulated. And if he's here, but he's And
Hmm.
sometimes it's cute and it's funny and we like that they're interacting, but I always try to tell people this is a sign that he's actually a bit activated right now. So can we
Yeah.
step back and let him graze for a minute or something till he can be here without doing that? We have to kind of get to know our horses and what their particular tells are. Some horses crowd when
Hmm.
they're feeling anxious. If both people can relax together, right, and it feels comfortable and safe and spacious, that's a good sign. But if it's not, if one or the other is not feeling like there's stability.
So if horses are fundamentally social animals, why do we ignore so much of that in trying to train them?
That's a great question. I've thought about this. When did we lose sight of the fact that horses are social animals? Because I have to believe at some point in our ancient ancestors
Hmm.
watched horses back when we were more attuned to nature too. We had to know they were social animals. So when did we lose sight of that? And I don't know the answer to that, but my guess is it's
Right.
back to kind of what you were saying is whenever did we start to commodify them or want to extract from them or get our needs met from them. I think it probably must go back to that same sort of thing. We hunted horses first. Honestly, our ancient ancestors hunted horses. But how we
Right.
hunted horses was understanding the way that they work. One of the roles that they play in their ecosystem is they will trample paths, right? That other
Hmm.
animals and others use those paths. I mean, we know if we're on a farm how horses will tear up certain areas that they repeat on, right? There's just nothing
Hmm.
grows there. So they would clear paths that other animals and humans would walk, early humans walked these paths. So we would see horses, we knew their paths. And then some of the very early hunting was finding a three-sided cavern near the path, and you could figure out how to get a couple of them to go in there, and then you close them off, and then maybe you can spear them. First, you understood the horse and how they work, and then you work with their psychology to be able to figure out a strategy when you're on foot. You can't really chase a horse. I don't know where I'm going with that, except that I think we did understand the nature of horses at one time.
When you said that, I was thinking my people that I know that are hunters and
Yeah.
fishermen, that's what they do, and that's part of what they like about doing. It's not about killing, it's about learning all of these things, and it's crazy what I have heard some of them tell me about, deer or turkeys or just random things that why
Yeah.
would anyone know that? But at some point, we really must have understood these
You have
things.
to get close. You'd have to get close to this animal that's really big. We also had to have understood how to gain trust.
Yeah, yeah, and they would have had to have some familiarity with people
Yes.
to allow themselves to be in that position of being herded or whatever, and it's interesting, having spent a lot of time in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and those horses are very much used to people and the crazy things that people do. So they're not really
Right.
bothered. But you go out to other places or out west and bigger areas where the horses aren't exposed to people as much, you have a really hard time even finding them
Yes.
to see because they know the intention. They're making themselves scarce. So you would have had to have understood them, and then certainly would have had to have understood them to somehow coax them into letting us do things with them, which we
Correct.
then turned into work and used for our own.
Yeah. Once we realize how cooperative and adaptable are, that's actually what the theory is that we first use that to hunt them, to be able to gain
Hmm.
relationships so you can get close enough. And back then, a tribe or whatever could live on a horse meat for a long time. That was a very valuable. But
Sure,
very soon we stopped hunting horses, and it has to be because we realized there were actually better uses. They were more valuable to us in other ways because we could train them and then we could use them. And a lot of it was about war, like always.
because we'd love to have some more. Yeah.
for various reasons, agriculture.
Right.
But anyway, it evolved. But it's because, yeah, I think we started to understand that they are super intelligent and trainable, and in some ways loyal, and they do form bonds with people as well as horses.
So I love that segue because knowing that they are very smart, we still hear a lot about how horses are not that intelligent and how they are delicate and how they're always getting themselves into trouble. And if it wasn't for us keeping them alive, a tummy ache can kill them, and all of these things. And it makes me a little bit crazy because horses really are very hardy. They adapt in huge ways to put up with our ridiculousness.
The different environments in the wild, like you said, the ones that live at the beach and the ones that live out west,
Exactly.
adaptable.
And what they survive on, one of the things that drives me nuts about her is this whole notion of high quality forage.
Don't get me started. Yeah.
Girl,
Feed 'em go ahead and feed them poison. I mean, sorry, but it's
yes.
not what they.
Horses were designed to eat large amounts of low quality forage. The Spirit movie, that sort of did the whole thing in because no, that's not what the plains look like. Sorry. And it's not
Right.
what the beach looks like. So horses actually survive pretty rough environments. A lot of the issues that they have in domestic world we've created as far as their health. They're getting human issues like ulcers.
They're gonna gnaw on something. They're gonna eat some. They're gonna have something in their stomach.
I am also of the theory that when horses feel they are secure in their relationships, not just with other horses, but with their humans, that they actually handle more freedom and more choice better. My horses, just like yours, come and go, and yes, they don't have scores of land to roam, but it's one of these storms that we had. A piece of metal sheeting came off my neighbor's roof and it was in their paddock. It's a sharp, it's metal. Did anybody run into it or cut themselves on it? I've gone out and found all kinds of things because I have one part of my fence line that there's a dirt road goes on the one side of it. They don't get into those things. So, how do you see the connection between relationship and freedom? And why does giving horses more choice actually tend to make them more cooperative rather than less cooperative?
First, I want to take a little tangent to this, what you were just saying, though, about how they can keep themselves safe with
Hmm.
hazards that are out there. Horses, one of their superpowers in the wild is that they can map every inch of their environment. And when they're grazing, that's part of what they're doing. Now, it has to be a pretty stable environment. If we change up the environment a lot, that
Right.
and they get panicked, they might run into something or they might do something. But if they know their environment and they've had a chance to get to know it in a calm state where they've really taken
Hmm.
it in, yeah, my horses run around and they can navigate. It's incredible. And there was a whole story I heard one time about these horses who there were gopher holes everywhere in this pasture.
Hmm.
And the riders were like, "Oh my God, we're gonna step in a hole." And the farmer was like, "Just let go of the reins and let them navigate it." And the people were like, "Oh." And
Right.
these horses ran back to the barn on a loose rein, and not one of them stepped in a gopher hole because they lived there. It was the pasture
Right.
they lived in. But if we are putting them in too many different environments or new environments, it does take them a little while to learn the environment, and they have to do that calmly. But the other thing that came to mind when you were asking that question is that so a lot of times as humans, I think we think of freedom and choice as synonymous with independence. And for horses, it's not synonymous with isolation or lack of relationship.
When you have a horse that you can allow to have some agency over itself
Yeah.
and give it some freedom, you're putting out less fires. But let's go back to COVID. And
Mhm.
how did we hate to be told what we could do and where
Right.
we could go?
Right.
But we do that with them every day,
Yeah. We tell them what they can and can't do with their bodies.
every day.
Yeah.
So if you can just give them, and no, not everybody has the resources to allow the horses to come and go as they want. But there are other things that you can do, taking them out for hand graze and getting interested in what they're interested in, or giving them little choices. Do you want to go this way on the trail or that way on the trail? Giving them small choices. You hear a lot of stuff, especially on social
And
media,
then,
about how they make bad choices.
mm, yeah,
Right.
no, they make good choices for them. What's coming to my mind as you're talking about this is my mare Tempa, who can tend toward aggression if she gets activated because of some
Mhm.
trauma history that she has. And hoof trimming is one that's very hard. One of her triggers is if she doesn't feel control of what's happening to her body. And the thing that has made the most difference is for us to one, just pause, and you can see you're getting a little activated as we come in. We just pause and goes, let us know when you're ready. And it only takes her like 10 seconds. But just that shift of us coming
Mhm.
in with intention to us going, we're here to do this. You know what we're here to do, but you tell us when you're ready to engage. And then she'll look, and then which foot do you want us to start with? And she will literally position herself this foot or that foot. And it's not always the same one. So just giving her that sense of this is a two-way conversation, and
Mhm.
I'm engaging in it. I'm active. I have some choices. I can tell you a little bit about how I feel about us doing this right now. I mean, that's just one example, but giving her a little bit more choice makes her much more cooperative than if we go in and be like, this foot now.
I often hear from people when I approach that subject, then it's, but I've been told all this time that if I give my horse a choice, they're always going to say no, and I can't let them say no.
It's just so ludicrous, right? What relationship do you want to be in where you are never allowed to say no? Good God.
Right.
They are sentient beings. Come on, we know they're intelligent. We know they have feelings. We don't want to be in that relationship, and they don't want to either. It's kind
And
of
I
amazing.
don't,
Yeah,
it's
that they
such a
think of it at all.
hard, yeah, and it's such a hard psychological thing for people to come out of.
It is. Well, because we've been told it's a safety thing. Anyway, it is 1,000-pound animal, and when it's been grilled into you, what is safe or not, or you're going to get hurt, or you've been hurt. There's a lot wrapped up in that, and it
Hmm.
can be scary to let go of that control. I've heard this is true with dogs and dog training too. I've heard several dog trainers tell me that if you have aggressive dogs, loosen the leash, let them
Hmm.
engage with each other. That a lot of times it's that restriction that
Hmm.
really causes them to feel like they need to go into fight. Now, that may not be all the time 100% thing, but it's often what they
Right.
say is let's give them a little more freedom to engage with the thing in a way that they feel more comfortable with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I always try to think of a human to human example that people can really get behind. A child, for example, if you are holding their hand in the death grip, they are going to try to get away from you.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel good.
You're trying to cross the street because you want to keep them safe. But if I let them hold on to my pinky or my shirt or whatever it is, then they just follow you across the street.
Yes, we are both predators and prey animals too. Vice grip on anything feels like a predator's got me. And even though
Right.
we have that prey animal instinct as well, and the horses are way more pure prey animal than we are, they sense every piece that feels at all like you got me.
Right.
That is not a happy feeling for them.
And it's not for people either. I would love for people to be taught more that you can ask the question and You can wait for the answer. It's not, we don't have to have, everything doesn't have to happen right this second. It's very rare that you need your horse to do something immediately. Like those situations are few and far between.
They are.
And if you take the time to get to know your horse and teach them these little things, then when those moments pop up, you can say, I need you to get out of my space right now, or I need you to go here right now. I just wish that more people would be taught that in the beginning rather than having to go through this painful process of having a bad relationship with the horse or getting hurt or something like that, and then having to relearn everything that they've been taught. So, to wrap up, if someone wants to improve the relational health with their horse, where do you think they should start?
So two places. The first, it's just totally simple, is start with getting to know your observing, noticing, right? Just get curious about who your horse is, what they're doing, have a little bit of empathy, ask the question like who are you? Right? Like just that. And observation is a great way.
And how do you, we've talked about this before on one of these calls, but how do you think people get past the dreaded anthropomorphism when they are doing that?
Yeah. It's a tough one. I'm actually taking an ethology course right now, and a lot of the focus is on how do you become a good observer.
Hmm.
And she talks a lot about our human brain always wants to attach a story to it. And this practice of like, go out, write down how many times your horse swishes their tail to the right. Just write down exactly what happened instead of telling the story. Oh, that
Hmm.
horse was bossy to the other horse. Write down, oh, pinned her ears, then swished her tail, then took a step forward. The difference between observing something and holding off on an interpretation and creating so sometimes just putting some distance between, and then you can
Hmm.
see patterns and you can start to see context. We do have to separate from it a little bit before we
Yeah.
attach to it. The other part that I think can help you not anthropomorphize, but also be able to have empathy is to actually learn what are the things that are similar between horses and humans and what are the things that are different. Because there are things like the digestive system. Your horse doesn't eat and digest the same way that you do. It's not give them just 3 square meals a day and let them have all these other time of no food. That's a
Right.
bad form of anthropomorphism. But in terms of their emotional systems, their nervous systems, they're very, very similar. Our horses have feelings and emotions, and it's not anthropomorphism to say that. It's scientifically backed. I was never taught any of that stuff.
Right.
And so,
Me
how do you
either.
know if you're anthropomorphizing or not? If you don't know what's the same and what's different.
Right.
So, start
And what
there.
are what are some small changes horse owners can make to support the social lives of their horses?
Mm. Well, I think one of the big ones is just we always hear friends forage freedom or whatever
Hmm.
F's are. There's also the 5 domains, but just remembering that first and foremost, horses are social. So, and it doesn't have to necessarily be friends, but social relationship interactions, whether it's with people, whether it's with horses, and again, ones that feel safe and secure attachments to them. I think that's key. Will walk away from food to go be with their friends if it's an unsafe situation. They're always going to pick other horses over everything else. Even in the wild, they've shown that if there's a band of horses here and a band of horses here, so on the screen here, and there's a predator up in front, instead of running this way away from the predator, they're going to run to each other. This one's going to run to the next nearest band, and then they're going to run together. Even if they have to run in front of the predator, they will
Hmm.
still do that because to them, safety is the group. And they
Hmm.
also know that a bunch of bodies running together with legs, it's harder to pick out an individual. But
Right.
they will bypass food and they will run right in front of danger to get to the safety of their friends and their trusted family. So it's just I think that just tells us how important that is, right? So just acknowledging that if your horse doesn't have a lot of that, that's going to be the most important thing you can add for them. You hanging out with them, you going grazing with them, you showing up in a way that helps them feel safe, spending a bit of time to get their nervous system regulated. So I don't know if I'm answering that, but I think just being aware that that is the most important thing. They are above all else social beings.
Yeah,
And
indeed. And so I'm sure we've hit on it, but what is one myth about horses and relationships that you would love to see disappear from the horse industry?
there are so many.
I know.
Um,
What's the big one that for you is just,
So I think I'm not sure if this is the biggest one, but I think I've figured out that it's maybe the one that is perhaps the most important. And that is the way that we do breeding. Gosh, it's so opposite of how
mm,
foals are raised in the wild. And we think that having their mom is enough, or even having just mares and foals all the same age, basically same age. This is not at all what develops a healthy, socially and emotionally stable and intelligent horse. They need to have multi-generational connections. They need to have older siblings or half siblings. The stallion is plays such a big role in raising the babies, and the mom is mostly, honestly, milk bar and safety. All the social emotional learning happens with the older siblings and the stallion, and so I think that's just a really that myth that
mm.
they're okay if they've got their mom and that it's okay to wean them at 6 months.
We don't even give them their mom for that long.
That I think creates probably more problems in horses' emotional development and social and secure attachment and stability and all those things, is that we are not starting them out in a way that
Mhm.
meets their needs, and you don't ever make that up.
And I think that we're finding there's research out there that's suggesting that there are physiological effects that are negative. And I have a student who they they did not know any better. Her daughter bought this lovely foal, and the people said at 6 months you can come pick him up. They didn't even wean him.
Oh my God.
And these poor people, they had no idea. He ended up becoming seriously ill, almost died. And what they found was that he had ulcers just throughout his whole system. And now he's happy, healthy. It was interesting because when that happened, my student is the mom, and she was in process of learning all of these other things, and it was, oh my God, I didn't know. And so luckily this horse was saved and has gone on to have a different type of life, but yeah, I think that is such a thing. We've had horses that we've bred and we've had them for a long, long time, and some of them have grown up in a pseudo familial band, no stallions, with moms and siblings, and it's very interesting the bonds and how everybody plays a role in
Race.
educating. It's
Well, and
very interesting.
so I'll just say this too, because I think it's in horse society, their primary purpose is they organize everything to raise healthy, emotionally and physically healthy young to maturity. That is the work they all cooperatively do. It means everything to them. So the other thing that happens is so much pressure put on mom horses in the domestic world to kind of be everything for us,
Mhm.
as long as they're allowed to even do that. But there's so many other horses that would love to help raise.
Hmm.
They really do love it. They like to mentor. And this is another way, especially with retired horses who sometimes people don't know
Hmm.
what to do with. Gosh, you want to give them purpose. Let them help.
Yeah, I had a horse that I had taken to Germany with me, and my coach over there, he bred horses, and this is so interesting because we all think of the European system as sort of being this
Mm,
conveyor belt, this just processing, right, for breeding. But interestingly, he said, I would love to have this horse because he's not that old. I think at the time he was maybe 14. I would love to have him come and live with my baby horses. That's how he lived out his life afterwards, and he was wonderful at it. And I've seen that in other cases as well, but it was so interesting to me in that environment where they're away and actively searching for horses that are good at doing that. And yes, we don't. Also, when you were saying that, I thought, isn't it weird how we just parallel our poor horses' lives right into our own societal issues? We went from communal indigenous type people, and then we decided that we were all going to be our own little units and our own thing, and then women were going to be
mm.
the all, we can do everything, which we can. However, I can tell you, it's not that fun.
Exactly, exactly. And it's not for mares either. It's really too much to ask them to be everything to their babies. And one of the ones I really realized with my horse was so a baby nurses on mom. There are no boundaries there. The baby has to be able for the first, at least 3 months or so, be able to come nurse whenever it needs to. And yeah,
Mhm.
mom starts to have boundaries later, but that is the basis of their
Right.
relationship at the beginning. Somebody else needs to teach that baby healthy boundaries, especially in those first 3 months, because that's mom can't. Mom
Hmm.
is safety and nourishment, but you don't wait till 3 months before the baby starts learning how to have
Hmm.
better relationships with others. He can't go suckle on uncle or
Right.
even older sister is going to go no. Right? So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. One of the things that I remember when we bred our first pony so many years ago that people always said, well, you have to wean them because if you don't, they'll never stop.
Well, one, they can't reach after a while. They just can't do their necks that way,
Right.
right? And mom is going to eventually say, "Stop it,"
And
right?
I can tell you from having human children that I also nursed,
Yes.
at some point they're gonna get tired. Like it,
It's just not
it
that important anymore.
we just create all of these weird things,
They're not even true.
but then they become true, even though they're not.
Right.
They just become accepted, and this is the way it's done, but it's not just because that's the way we do it doesn't mean it's healthy.
And the horse industry is just a very beautiful example. There's just a lot of really crazy shit that I don't know where, why, or what, but don't always trust what experienced horse people, tell you because we've all been indoctrinated by all kinds of crazy stuff. And there's very few places unless you just really like me get just love to geek out on ethology, right?
Right.
You're not going to come across this information. Right? You're just not.
No,
Not out there.
no, it's not. And you really sometimes do have to dig for it. And it it's hard for people. And then how do you say, well, who knows what they're talking about and who doesn't know what they're talking about? And then you go back and forth, well, should there be some sort of certification? Well, I can tell you there are certification programs in other countries. There are certification programs here, and I know people that are very well certified that I wouldn't let teach me anything with a horse. And I and I know you have the same experience in other avenues of the horse industry too. So how
I
how
think
do
it,
people know? I
what
always
I,
tell people, trust your feeling.
yes.
Trust your gut. Go with your we also have sort of debunked that in society, but really I think
Well, and even if you can't trust yourself yet, or you don't know how to do that yet, trust your horse. Listen to your horse. If
mhm,
something's not working for your horse, if your horse is struggling, having a hard time, it's not, things are just not jiving. Get curious about that and start looking beyond the traditional or normal things to say what might be going on here. Because horses don't lie. They're not just trying to be difficult. They're not,
no.
they don't, that's a bit of an anthropomorphism, right? When we put
Yes.
all these agendas on them of why they're doing things, they're really just trying to tell us that something's not working. So yeah, trust your own gut to the extent you can, your own feelings, and then also trust your horse. They're your friend. Trust them that something's it's hard for a reason.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you, Kim.
you're welcome.
All right, horse fiends, thanks for hanging out with us today. If this episode got your gears turning, don't forget to check out Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart. The links are in the show notes. It's the program that'll take everything we talked about here and actually help you apply it in real life with your horse. And hey, before you ride off, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review of the show. It helps more riders like you find us and keep these conversations going. All the links you need are waiting in the show notes. Happy riding!